everybody. How you doing? Guess what? It's time for you to get ready and tune in to the Mark Ballard Show. It's time for the Mark Ballard Show. Said, don't you change that dial. We're gonna party for a little while. It's the Mark Ballard Show. It's time for the Mark Ballard.
You are tuned in to WNZN Power 89.1 with, at the moment, the Mark Ballard Show. I've taken over the studio from Sherry and Nana and all their friends to talk a little bit of what's going on in America, what's going on in this United States of America, and all the good things that we can do to engage. I have a few guests in with me today. I have Mayor Frank Whitfield, the great city of Elyria. Welcome, Mayor.
Good morning. Good morning.
And I also have a very special guest, our former governor, Mr. Dick Celeste. Welcome, sir.
It's good to be with you, Mark.
There you go.
It's
There you
great
go.
to be here.
It's okay to grab that mic and bring it a little bit closer to you, right there, so you don't have to bend down so low. There you go.
I can do it.
There you go.
There we go.
So you all know Dick Celeste is an American former diplomat. That's something that I learned. University administrator and a politician here who was our former governor. He served as the 64th governor here in Ohio and from 1983 to 91. Throughout his governorship, Celeste was known for his focus on education, healthcare, and social issues, which often align with the needs and priorities of our community. So welcome, sir.
It is great to be here. Thanks.
So glad to have you. And Mayor, I'm going to pivot and kind of put you in the driver's seat today to kind of drive this thing. And when you take a breath, I'll jump right in and ask a few of my questions. So welcome you all.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Governor. Welcome to Lorain County, Ohio.
It's good to be in Lorain County. And
When's the last time you were in Lorain County?
I was here a few weeks ago. I have a son who's getting a house fixed up in the city of Lorain. So
Okay.
I'm going to have an investment in Lorain County.
Okay, there we go. There we go. So we might see you more often around here.
You might very well see me.
That's
more.
awesome. Well, I'm so glad to have you come in town. You know, we got the chance to connect through Mayor Bibb around this issue 1, and we're really going to unpack that today and talk about the importance of that. But I thought we'd start off kind of talking a little bit about you as an individual. You know, we don't often get a former governor here in the city of Lorain or the city of Elyria or here in Lorain County. And so I really want to talk a little bit about your background and what got you involved in politics. So can you give us a little bit about your upbringing? I see you were born in Cleveland, but how'd you get involved in politics?
Well, I mean, I'm very proud of you as a young mayor of Elyria, and it was a mayor who inspired me to get into politics. My dad was mayor of Lakewood, Ohio. He ran for office just as I was leaving for college, and so I really got a chance on summer vacations to see what it was like to have the privilege of serving your friends and neighbors in public life. And he was a great believer in the importance of being engaged in civic activities. He encouraged his family to do that. My mom was a social worker, and so in many respects I got it on both sides. And then I had the privilege, when I was quite young, when I was 25, to work as an assistant to our ambassador in India. And he had been the governor of Connecticut. His name was Chester Bowles. And he became, along with my father, the most important, really, mentor that I had. And he encouraged me to think about getting into politics myself. Every time we would have a visitor who was, some important political figure, the ambassador would ask me to be what was called a control officer. So I had a chance to take Vice President Hubert Humphrey around appointments in New Delhi, India. I had a chance to take Arthur Goldberg, who was at that time a Supreme Court justice, around New Delhi, India. I had a chance to take Richard Nixon around New Delhi, India. And he wrote me, he actually encouraged me after we'd spent 4 days together. And he said, Dick, I'm not sure that you're my party, but I do want to encourage you to think about public service because it's a noble profession. So
Wow.
I, you know, I had a great deal of encouragement and some very fine role models.
Yeah. So when it came to, because I really want to learn more about you, why you chose India. So did India choose you, or did you choose India? Because I saw you served in the Peace Corps as well.
So here's I was Peace Corps staff. My brother was the Peace Corps volunteer. I was a student of African history. When I was in college, I wrote a thesis on Pan-Africanism before people were paying much attention to what was happening. This was 1959. And so my interest was Africa, and it happened that while I was studying in England, I'd finished college and I was doing some graduate study in England. I met and married my wife, Dagmar. We were quite young. I came home and I discovered that we were pregnant, and I got invited to come work on the Peace Corps staff. In 1963, Kennedy was president, and Peace Corps was just getting started, and a woman named Sally Bowles asked me to come down and work there, and so I went to work there because they had a health insurance policy that didn't treat pregnancy as a pre-existing condition. Back in that time, this is before you were born, Mayor, but back in that time, they thought pregnancy was a pre-existing condition and health insurance wouldn't cover it, but the federal health plan did. So I took the job at the Peace Corps, and I worked. My boss was about my age. Her name was Sally Bowles, and her dad was Chester Bowles, and he was asked by Kennedy to go to India as ambassador in 1963, and he asked me to be his personal assistant.
Wow.
So that I had to go back home after he asked me and look at the atlas because I thought I knew where India was, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and then you fell in love with India, and we'll get to the governorship, but after you served as governor, you then served as an ambassador to India, so it seems like you stayed in love with that place.
It is something else. I thought I would be in India for 2 years. I ended up staying 4 years. My number 2 son and my first daughter were born in India.
Oh, wow.
And so I came home. We had 3 kids when we got back to Cleveland. And I started working in the real estate business and then became a state rep. So I came home from India in 1967. In 1996, when President Clinton was reelected, I was invited to the White House for a celebration of service programs like the Peace Corps. And I was there with Colin Powell and others. And President Clinton, who had been governor of Arkansas when I was governor of Ohio, and we were buddies, he said to me, I went through, shook his hand, he said, Dick, what do you want to do? Come on, tell me what you want to do. It's my second term. I said, there's really nothing I want to do, Mr. President. Having been Peace Corps director, I'd worked in Washington. I wasn't a big fan of working in Washington, so nothing I want to do. I had my wife's girlfriend with me. My wife was pregnant. She was back in Cleveland, so I took her girlfriend because her girlfriend wanted to meet President Clinton. Her girlfriend called my wife and said, President Clinton asked your husband what he wanted to do, and he said no. He said, what is this? I got home, and Jacqueline said to me, what do you mean there's nothing you want to do? There is. And I said, no, there isn't. She said, yes, there is. There's one thing you want to do. I said, what is that? She said, you'd like to be ambassador to India. I wanted to say no, but then I realized she was right. So I wrote President Clinton a letter.
Wives have a way of being right.
That's right. I wrote him a letter, and I sent it in February of 1997, and I got a call in April. Please come see me at the White House. I want to talk to you. I'm sitting in the Oval Office with the President of the United States. He said, well, it's unanimous. Al thinks it's a good idea, Vice President Gore. Hillary thinks it's a good idea. I'm going to appoint you ambassador. So 30 years after I left India, I went back as ambassador to India. I told the people when I arrived, I said, I know the exact dimensions of a career ladder. I've moved from the desk outside the office to the desk inside the office. In 30 years, I've moved 30 feet. It's 1 foot a year on the career ladder.
Yeah. After all this time. But there was a big window in between there where you served as governor of Ohio, and you mentioned your Ohio journey, being a state rep. Talk about, so you were elected in '83.
I was elected
82 and
yeah, I was elected in '82. I had been state rep in '70, served for 4 years. Decided to run for lieutenant governor, and at that time we elected our governor and lieutenant governor separately. And Jack Gilligan was Democratic governor. I was a big admirer of Governor Gilligan, and I wanted to be his right hand. I said, I'm running to be your strong right hand. And on election day in 1974, Jack Gilligan lost by 11,000 votes out of 3 million, less than 1 vote per precinct. I won by 90,000 votes. So here I was, as a Democratic lieutenant governor for Jim Rhodes, who was the Republican governor. And I went to see the governor-elect. This is before we were sworn in. It's December of 1974. And Governor, you must be as surprised as I was by the outcome. He said, yeah, I was. I said, well, the people of Ohio elected both of us. I'll do whatever I can to be helpful. He said, do you play golf? I said, no, I don't play golf. He said, you should take it up. I said, why should I take it up? He said, because I'm not going to give you a darn thing to do.
Wow.
So I was lieutenant governor. I presided over the Senate. I did everything I could for the people of Ohio, but I also was running for governor, right? In 1978, I ran against him, and I lost by 22,000 votes out of 3 million. So 2 votes per precinct. Wow. And then I won again, ran at 82, and I won.
Wow. So, when you said that, it made me think about the fact that Ohio has always been perceived as this kind of purple state. The fact that, they elected a Republican governor and a Democrat lieutenant governor, and how much I believe that to still be the case today. But why is Ohio so red today? Or I would guess the first question, do you believe we're still purple as a state? No. And do you think that, and why do you think if we are purple, why does the map show us red?
Well, I think we're a very purple state. If you look at voter registration in Ohio, there are probably about 1 million registered Republicans. There are probably 900,000 registered Democrats, and there are 5 million people who are non-declared voters. They're independent voters. Now, they've tended to vote Republican, and I think that's because the Republican Party has done a better job of developing statewide candidates and working at the grassroots to build strong grassroots organization. And I think, Democrats have their work cut out for them. But I think if you look at issues, and we're going to talk about issue 1, but if you look at issues, the state of Ohio is quite independent. And even back in the 80s, Mayor, when in 1980, Ronald Reagan carried Ohio with 59% of the vote. In 1982, I carried Ohio with 59% of the vote. In 1984, Ronald Reagan was re-elected. He got 60% of the vote in Ohio. 1986, I was re-elected. I got 60% of the vote in Ohio.
Yeah.
So and people would split their votes. My feeling is if we had an open primary, if independents could vote in either primary, if they could choose, okay, I'm independent, I'm going to choose to vote in this Republican primary this year or a Democratic primary the next year, you would have our politics would be better because independent-minded people would be looking for really good candidates.
Yep.
And it would temper the hard edge this kind of angry politics, which I think is not good for any of us, frankly, in the end, So.
No, I agree. So, again, we're here with Governor Celeste, the former governor of Ohio. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to dive into talking about issue 1, which is very relevant to where we just left off. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
And we are back here at WNZN Power 89.1 Lorraine. And like I said before, we're here with our mayor of Elyria, Mr. Frank Whitfield. Hello, Mayor.
Hey.
And we have our former governor, Big Celeste, with us. And welcome back, sir.
It's very good to be back here. Thanks, Mark.
Outstanding, Mr. Frank.
So, Mark, you had a question you wanted to queue up to the governor, and then we're going to jump into the issue 1 piece.
Yeah, actually, it is about the whole issue 1T. So can you explain in your own words why you believe Ohioans should vote the way you think they should vote on issue 1?
Well, issue 1 got me so angry that I had to come back and spend time here. I still have 4 kids living in Ohio. My sister's in Ohio. I have a condo in Lakewood, Ohio, so I've kind of considered this my home state as well. This issue is, Lord Acton said, absolute power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely.
You're seeing absolute power being exercised in Columbus in a way which is utterly corrupt. There is an effort in issue 1 to allow 40% of the people in this state to determine what happens.
Right.
Even it is contrary to the fundamental history of the state. This Ohio Constitution was adopted. It was amended. It's the new Constitution because of about 30 amendments that were passed in the period around 1912, when Teddy Roosevelt and William Jennings Bryan came to Ohio to urge the folks who were meeting to look at the Constitution to put people first. The people should control what happens in the public arena. Politicians answer to the people. This amendment would take the voice of the people away. Now they say, well, all we're trying to do is to elevate the standards of the Constitution. No, what they're doing is emasculating the standards of the Constitution. And what really is, to me, the most appalling, I think if this was a sincere effort by thoughtful politicians to help the people of Ohio, and on an issue which they say is the most important issue to go on the ballot, and important issues should get 60% of the vote. Why didn't they require 60% of the vote to pass this issue? And if this issue was so important that it needed to be on the ballot and get the support of the people of Ohio, why did they concoct an August election after they had legislated an end to August elections just last January? So, to me, this was like if I wanted a poster child for hypocrisy in politics. This is the poster child, and I can't tell you how upset I've become as a result. So that I'm here because I'm passionate about it.
We hear it. And you're not alone. I think what's unique is that the past 4 former governors, both Republican and Democrat, are against this issue. So why do you think that is?
Well, I think, because this issue isn't about politics. I mean, I the last 2 days I've been appearing with Betty Montgomery. She's staunch Republican. She was our Attorney General. She was also our state auditor, a lovely woman. We were in Cleveland at the City Club, and yet last night we were in Toledo talking about this. This is not a partisan issue. This is an issue that goes to the heart of what democracy is about. And, you think about this, Mayor, we've watched in the last few years, and all of this has to do with how do you try to stay in power as politicians. They have changed the voter ID laws to make it more difficult. They have reduced the number of days of early voting to make it more difficult. They've they've reduced it to one drop box per county. Colorado, where I come from, in the most conservative county in Colorado, there are 39 drop boxes.
Wow.
And there's only one drop box in Lorain County, only one drop box in Cuyahoga County, and one drop box, by the way, in Vinton County with 20,000 population. And now they want to diminish the voice of the people in this fashion.
No, so what do you think is the I don't want to call it a conspiracy, but what do you think is what is the motivation? Why would a group of folks want to raise the bar? And I think to me it's a really fundamental question about a power grab. To me, it's just but from if you were being more thoughtful than just a statement of a power grab like I just made, what would you say is the driving motivation for why folks like the Secretary of State are out, campaigning for yes, and why other folks would be pushing for yes?
Well, I think there are two reasons. I think there is a group of people who support this, who are concerned about an amendment on reproductive freedom that they believe would pass because they've seen it pass in Kansas, they've seen it pass in Michigan. It's going to be on the ballot this November, and they're trying to head that off by changing the rules of the game after the game got started. That's, for a lot of people, I think that's a sincere interest.
Yeah.
And I understand it. I don't agree, because I don't think you should amend the Constitution for one issue.
Exactly.
But what I want to say is I believe that the politicians in Columbus who voted for this are really interested in protecting their own political power. And I would call this issue one, the Protect the Politicians Amendment, right? That's the way I think of it. And I say that because they see down the line an anti-gerrymandering amendment that would require the drawing of fair lines in this state. And we know from what happened just in the last couple of years, when the people of Ohio thought they had passed an anti-gerrymandering amendment, the politicians in Columbus, drew terribly unfair lines. The Supreme Court said no. They drew unfair lines again. The Supreme Court said no. They drew unfair lines again, and the Supreme Court said no. And finally, they drew unfair lines the fourth time. There wasn't time to change them. So we have a gerrymandered legislature with a supermajority that doesn't want to let go of power.
Yeah. Now we had an interview with John Legend here last week, and he was sharing with us similar sentiment around how Ohio's been gerrymandered, and this is a way that those folks are trying to protect their power. And he was really encouraging Ohioans to not give up their power, that right now we have the power to dictate the future of our state and not to give that power away. In regards to the women's reproductive rights, a lot of folks, as we talked about before, this is a gospel radio station, a lot of folks who have various views and opinions when it comes to women's reproductive rights. But the point in this issue one is, don't try to change the rules mid-game. If the issue is going to be on the ballot on November, let it be a fair shot. Get your folks out and vote yes or vote no based on where your convictions are, but don't change the rules in the middle of the game to try to skew it so that you get the result, because there's other things that by raising this bar that are going to have other consequences. So we're talking about workers' rights, education, but what else is at stake do you see with this issue?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And this is, sadly, this is this group of, I can only think of them as corrupt politicians, basically corrupt in the sense that, well, we've seen a $60 million bribe and get prosecution for that. and this crowd is thinking the same way. The sad thing is to take advantage of people who honestly are concerned about the issue of choice and what that can mean for them and their views on this matter, and then make a change that would deprive them of a voice on anything else in the future.
It's like sacrificing your power
Yeah.
for the belief
Yeah.
that this issue is, because it's not even guaranteed. It's not that if you're a person who is, not necessarily a pro-choice person, if that's the view you have and you believe by voting yes for this that you're stopping anything from happening in Ohio, that's not true, because there's still a vote in November that could still have the impact. So then you would have sacrificed your power in the short term and didn't get the result that you wanted long term. And
Right.
so it's a total sacrifice of your power for the sake of an issue. And I think that's exactly what the corrupt politicians or these extreme politicians want you to do. They want you to give up the power that you have, put an issue in front of you that'll get you emotionally charged, and just take you to the bank at the end.
Well, and as I say, I think the thing they're worried about, and they should be worried about it, is that there will be on the ballot, if not next year, down the line, there'll be an issue on the ballot to create a true anti-gerrymandering, a true fair districting issue for the state. And I'm sure that the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Maureen O'Connor, who was Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, a Republican, I'm sure that she will be very vocal on behalf of that kind of change, and I'm sure that there will be many individuals, civic leaders, and even probably former governors who would support a change like that. And
That's awesome. Well, Governor, what we have going on, we're about to head over to the Board of Elections. We're doing a rally outside in the parking lot. We want folks to come out and join us. We want to encourage people to vote early. So that's why we're doing it at the Board of Elections. That's going to start at noon. We're going to be there from 12 to 1. We're going to have some hot dogs and hamburgers, try to feed you. Got some cold water for you. And we got some guest speakers. Governor Celeste is going to give a speech there as well. I'll be giving a speech as well as a number of community leaders from the YWCA, League of Women Voters, Lorain County Democrat Women's Club, the AFL-CIO. So we got a nice lineup of folks who are going to give some remarks here.
brief remarks.
Brief, yeah. It's too hot to be long. So we're going to tell them it's way too hot to be long. So I'm like, y'all come up, say hi, tell folks vote no, and go have a seat. But we encourage you to meet us at the Board of Elections during your lunch break. Come get a hot dog, some hamburgers, and vote early. This is your chance to go out and vote early. So any parting thoughts you want to share?
I just want to say how glad I am to be able to be here, Mayor. To enjoy your hospitality, Mark, your hospitality as well.
You're welcome anytime, sir.
There's a biblical one of John Kennedy's favorite passages was, when the trumpet sounds a broken note, then who shall lead, right? Well, I think this issue one is a broken note, and it's up to the people of Ohio to lead, and I'm just proud to be here with you.